Hello, you lot. Welcome back to the podcast. Just a little quick note before you listen to the rest of this episode. Slight disclaimer, maybe a trigger warning. We do talk openly about mental health during this episode, particularly the challenges of going through a cancer battle. So be warned, there are some topics that, surround mental health that are maybe not super easy to listen to if you're struggling. We do also touch briefly on suicide. But it's not all an episode full of doom and gloom, I promise. So
please listen.
Please continue to listen. So roll the intro. Let's get into it. You are making me cold just looking at you.
It's freezing.
You look like we're sat recording this in the Arctic Circle.
Well, basically we are. It's a stable 9 degrees.
Yeah.
F***ing joke.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shock to the system coming from where we've come from, isn't it?
We got the heater on. We got the rug out.
Yeah.
And we bought some new cozy lights to make it a bit more nice and warm in here, to make it look a bit nicer.
Yeah.
Because it's also very dark here.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot darker than where we've spent the last 4 months, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, like, we're moving into the summer. It almost, for me, it feels like we should be going the other way. Because we've had 4 months of sun and really hot weather. Naturally, it feels like we should be going into the winter.
Yeah.
But actually, as we get further and further through the year, it's gonna get warmer. So
yeah,
it feels nice.
Definitely. And it is nice to see like Europe during springtime. It's just that we're so used to the heat and that we don't really got enough warm clothes for it to be this cold.
Yeah, I mean, well, all the warm clothes were packed away as soon as we touched down in Spain.
Yeah, but also the clothes that was like made for actual cold and actual like this kind of weather left at your mum's.
Yeah, we sent them all home, didn't we? We sent them all back to Sweden, of course. Yeah, so we haven't really got anything, have we?
No.
I busted out the jeans and I've even got socks on now.
Yeah,
crazy.
no, you're crazy. I'm not going that far.
No, I've took it to the extreme now, haven't I? You're sat there under a thermal nuclear blanket instead. But hey, anything to keep you warm.
Yes, we also can't have the heater on when we're recording, just to say, and that's a reason why we get prepped to get cold.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the quietest of contraptions, is it?
No.
Yeah, so obviously we're making our way up to Sweden now. We've been making good progress, haven't we? We've been driving pretty, quite a lot every day, or at least we've been driving some every day now, because we're heading up because we're on a bit of a schedule, aren't we? Now.
Yeah, we got doctor's appointments and scans coming up.
Yes, it's been about 6 months, just over 6 months since your last cancer scans.
Yeah, every 6 months I got new scans coming up for the next coming 2 years. So every 6 months we need to be back in Sweden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that time's now.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd talk a little bit today about mental health. And with the scans coming up, it sort of unlocked a part of us that we've forgotten for quite a while. You know, we've been living this sort of like island life almost. We've not really been caring about much. The only thing we've been focusing on is having a nice time and spending time together as a family.
I think for me it's a bit different, because for me it also feels like a completely different thing this time, because this time last year I had my surgery and then a scan, which was like, it felt like all a part of the big process. Like that scan didn't really count. And then the scan after that, it was also, they scheduled that earlier, so I got that scan earlier because I wasn't feeling good. So that also felt like there's a reason why I'm doing this scan. Like I'm not feeling good, so they're going to see what it is to make me not feel good. This time it's like we have been living life for the last at least 4 months. We've been living the best life. Like you said, we've not even thought about cancer. We've been able to focus on recovering and getting our lives back and trying to get back on our feet. And now it feels like that cancer wall hits you. It's like, all right, what if it shows anything this time? Then it's not just like, oh, it's a part of the journey. and he might show something because I'm not feeling good. Now it's like it's going to come out of nowhere if he's showing something because we've been feeling really good while we've been away and we're not even thought about this. And then it just hits you with a stick in the back of your head.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're not going to have to cross that bridge. But yeah, absolutely. Those are the sort of like worries that you have aren't there. You know, you don't have that expectation like you did last time.
No.
Because yeah, last time you weren't feeling good, but you had a lot of complications from the surgeries that you'd had like a few months before and stuff.
Yeah, so why don't we go back a bit and talk a bit about how our mental health has been since I got sick? Because I feel like it's been a roller coaster since the day that I got my diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it's obviously we've been on different roller coasters because it's a completely different thing to be the person who's sick and dealing with that compared to the person who stands next to you. And I'm not thinking that we have to go super deep on everything, but I still think it's quite important to talk about all these feelings and that all feelings are okay and what can you be feeling during all of this and after and just all of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's nice that we can sort of sit and have a proper open conversation about stuff because for a lot of people, mental health is still quite taboo. It's still a thing that's not really spoken about. But the thing that really hit home for me, like about the importance of mental health, was all the way through your cancer journey. Doctors and nurses in particular really reiterated like how important mental health was. Your what was her name? Your nurse, Evelina, said a few times mental health is as important, if not more important, than physical health in a lot of ways. And that's the sort of feeling that I've had for a long time, or always had, really.
Yeah.
But it was quite nice to hear that that's also creeping into like the healthcare system as well, that's how they think about it.
Yeah.
Like, from my perspective, obviously there are a lot of people sharing their cancer stories, people that have had cancer, that are sharing what they've been through and how they've been feeling and stuff. But there's been very little, from what I've seen at least, of the partner's side of it. How the husband's been affected in our case.
Yeah.
But, you know, the partner, the close family. So I think it's quite a good thing for us to be able to share that side of the story as well.
I do, definitely. We've been talking about it for ages that you need to share your story because obviously we have shared all of it on YouTube. It's been a lot of the joint and now we're going through this and all about the facts, but not much about the actual mental health. And I think this is a good opportunity to dive a bit deeper into it.
Definitely. I think it's nice. And like you said, like, not to go too deep into stuff because it's still a light-hearted podcast, isn't it? It's not, we're not going to, you know, go so deep that it's going to be a miserable listening experience for you. But at the same time, like, I do think it is important to sort of, you know, put forward that not everything is rainbows and it's not all been like being able to look on the positive side of absolutely everything. It's, you know, there have been tough times and massive challenges and stuff like that.
Yeah. We always do try to look at the positive side. Even when we were going through the darkest bits, we were trying to see the positives of it. But just like you say, it's important to say that it's not always possible and it's not every single day where you can see the positives. So I think it's important to just, share all of it, to be honest.
Definitely, yeah. I think we were quite lucky throughout the journey because most of the time there was some positive to see, for us at least. We were able to find some positive in some part of it. There was always something to look forward to, something to like have hope for. What I mean is, at least from when you'd had like a chunk of your treatment, we always had some positive to look towards, like your tumour shrinking, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with that. It's not really accurate, is it? Because there was a lot of times when there wasn't really any positives. Thinking back about it, I think that whole like last minute of me just talking was probably bullshit, to be quite honest. Now that I think about it, now that I've had a little bit of time to reflect on it, I'm gonna just scratch all that from the record because there were plenty of times through that whole journey when we didn't have a fucking thing to.
Yeah, like when I got COVID.
Yeah.
Or when we all got stomach bug 4 days after
exactly.
my
It's all
surgery.
flooding back to me now. It's all flooding back to me now. Yeah, there's plenty of times. What am I talking about? Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I love about our relationship and about you in particular is that even when time's really dark, most of the time you can still look for some positive.
I always try to laugh at stuff instead of get too depressed about it.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done, I think. But now when I look back, I feel like my mental health was worse at the end of all of it. Like when I was getting out of treatment and I was done with everything, then it was during the whole thing. Because when I was in it, I was so in it. Like it was treatment and it was COVID and it was having kids and trying to be there as a mom and a partner. And I didn't have any time to reflect on anything that was going on.
No.
It was just like appointment after appointment. And during the time I was home, it was just full on speed on everything else that was going on. No time for me to reflect at all. Until after my surgery, I think, after my second surgery. That's when like the mental health wall hit me, I think. When they said like you're no longer in treatment anymore, now you can recover. That's when I felt like that cancer hangover, as they call it. And that's when I started to process everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference between you and me, because you had so much time to go through it all when I was going through treatment, when my mindset was just to survive, basically.
Yeah, you were in the eye of the storm all the way through, weren't you? And I think it's so different from your perspective and from my perspective. And I think, like we've talked about before, a lot of the time people sort of think that the cancer journey's over when you finished with chemo, or in your case, when you're recovering from your surgery. The way that a lot of people who've been showing support to us have been talking about it is like almost like, oh, it's over, you can start to live again. But actually, that's when the next part of the journey starts, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's when you're able to start processing what you've been through, I think.
Yeah. And that's in one way harder than the whole process of treatment, because during treatment, somebody's there to hold your hand the whole way through.
Yeah.
You got doctors to call, you got doctor's appointment, nurse's appointment, you got all of these people that check up on you every single week, sometimes even twice a week, and you got so much support and people around you all the time. And then when you're done, when the cancer treatment is done, they're like, all right, we'll see you in 3 months, goodbye. And then you let go. And everybody around you also thinks like, okay, but then if the doctors let go, then you're done. And that's when you actually start trying to get through what actually has been going on. And that's the hardest bit, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important that we talk about it from like our perspectives rather than like the general sort of this is what happens on everybody's cancer journey, because everybody's cancer journey is different. But what happened with us is it was one thing after another. You didn't get a chance to process anything while you were actually sort of having your treatments done.
No.
It was one thing after another. But then we also had the added thing of you got COVID. Well, we all got COVID.
Yeah.
But obviously you were going through treatment. You were going through chemo when you got COVID.
Yeah.
It's like as if chemo's not hard enough.
Yeah.
You also have like the worst flu that you've ever had in your entire life.
Yeah.
You didn't get a chance to start even, beginning to process what you'd been going through.
No. And when I look back, I can remember the days from when they told me they could see a tumor. So from when they told me that there was a tumor until I got the cancer diagnosis, it was 10 days. And it was all different kinds of scans and examinations and different kinds of doctor's appointments during them 10 days. I think I was in a doctor's appointment basically every single day. And during them 10 days, I didn't sleep. I don't think I slept at all. And everything that was going through my head was like, how bad is it? How far has it spread? I was reading my journals online every single day to see what the doctors had been writing. And I was obsessed. And my brain was just spinning non-stop. And I was so scared to not be there for when the kids was growing up. That was my biggest fear. Like, what if I don't get to see my kids grow up? And I was terrified. I could feel myself going down this hole, this dark hole where I didn't know how I would get back up again. But as soon as the treatment started, that was gone. Like I wasn't in that hole anymore. I don't know where I was, but I wasn't in that deep, terrified, I don't know what to do with myself anymore. Then I just got up and I was like, all right, I'm going to fight this now. This is it. And I don't feel like I was ever scared during the actual treatment because then it was just like, all right, I need to get through this chemo session this tomorrow. And after tomorrow is going to be 5 days of this. And after that is this. And your head just goes on like, what's tomorrow? What's tomorrow? And you don't get a chance to process the whole big picture.
Almost like you're on autopilot. You're living from like appointment to appointment, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're living from treatment to treatment and whatever. You don't have time to have those feelings almost. You're focused on what comes next.
Exactly. And then I think that's why it's such a big wall when you're done and you get this cancer hangover, as people call it. And I think that's why it hits you so hard when you're done, because you had all of these fears and then all of a sudden you have to forget about them and just get going. And then you've had 8, 9, 10 months out of just surviving, and then all of that hits you. And like we said, nobody sticks around. You're just supposed to get through it on your own, basically.
Yeah.
And I found how big support you can find on social media. And therefore, we also think it's important to, even if we don't got any solutions or can only speak from our point of view, I think it's important to do this episode where we do talk about what we've been feeling and how it's been. Because even if it just helps one single person who's going through it, or is wherever you are in the process, can think like, oh, I recognize that, or I can feel some kind of support in knowing that somebody else felt like it, then it's worth doing this.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I think it could be comforting for people to hear that it is really, really, really normal to have this cancer hangover, as you call it. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that people tend not to understand, because I think the natural way of thinking about it is like, oh, that really difficult period was over. Now you can relax. Now you don't have to think about chemo. You don't have to think about the next surgery. So now it's time for you to, relax your brain a little bit, and, you can start thinking about positive things, and you can start enjoying life again. And that is true in one respect, but actually the reality is not like that at all, is it?
No. That's when your brain starts spinning, like, what if? And for me, it's also been, how have the kids been feeling throughout this? And putting like that mum guilt that you got anyway when you're a parent onto, all right, I've not been there for the last 10 months. That also hits you quite hard on your mental health. And you're a completely different person after cancer. Finding yourself again, getting back up on your feet, trying to get a normal every day again, finding your role as a parent again when it's been 10 different people who's been raising your kids and trying to find who am I now after all of this trauma that's been going on is a lot. And I can say that even now, a year after my surgery, I still get these feelings where I'm like, who am I and how am I going to process this? And I was telling you a couple of months ago, it's like I feel like I fought so bloody hard to stay alive. But what did I fight for? Because I feel like I'm just an empty case of myself. I'm just a shell of who I used to be, and there's nothing inside of me that's the same as it was. And I don't know how I'm going to find my way back to being me and being the same fun, active parent, or the same like full of joy and laughing person as I used to be. And it's hard at the same time as it is exciting to feel like you can restart a little bit. You can choose who you want to be, is how you normally tell me. But it's also hard to get those feelings. And even, like I said, even if it's been over a year, I still get these feelings. Like, how did I end up here, and why did this happen to me?
Yeah. And the thing that I always try to remind you of is that you've only just started. You're only a year past your surgery. That's not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. Considering what you went through for that period of time, it's not a long time, and it will get easier and easier. And the other thing is, like, with you saying about how do you become the fun parent again? How do you get back to being your fun self and whatever. You are that person. You are still that person. You're the same fun person that you always were. It's just now that you've got this added like filter over it, that you've been through something really dark and really, really difficult. But I still see the exact person that you were. You're still the funniest person that I know, pretty much.
Thanks.
But second funniest. You're still the fun parent, absolutely. Anybody who's seen you with the kids can see that you're the fun parent. And I think it's always harder to see yourself in that light. It's a lot easier for me, particularly, because I spend so much time with you, too much time with you. But also for anybody who spends time with you, our new friends that we've met on the road see the fun side of you. Your family sees the fun side of you. Everybody else that's around you can see that you still have that and you still are that same person that you were from before cancer. It's just that now there's other stuff going on as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to say you're probably right.
Definitely right.
But I can really see your point of view from it. But I just want to share those feelings anyway, to say to other people, because I think that when people look at us, at least how I understand people when I read our comments on YouTube, is people saying like how fast we got back to normal and how happy we are and how good everything is. And it is good, and we got a positive view on life and we're making the most of it and we want to live every single day. But a friend of mine who's also got cancer, I met her through social media and she got the same diagnosis as me, just that she's been fighting for 2.5 years and just got told that she's cancer free. But she said it perfectly. She said that every time you're having a good time, every time you're in the middle of a laugh with somebody, every time you feel like, oh, I love doing this, it's a little ghost in the back of your head who says you really need to appreciate this because you don't know if you're going to get this again. Because you don't know what the next scan is going to show you. And you get a different kind of appreciation to life, but you also always, at your happiest, you always get reminded that you need to appreciate this because you don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
And it's for good and for bad.
Yeah. It's almost like it doesn't let you just be happy. You don't have that feeling of just purely being happy. There's always a reminder of, like you said, you need to really appreciate this. And that's not always a good thing, is it?
No, because normal people, if I should use those words, when they're enjoying something in life, you know, when we went to the water park and everybody was going on the slides and laughing and you can see the kids really happy. Normal people don't think like, I need to appreciate this because I don't know when I'm getting this again. But in my head, I'm like, we don't know what's happening after April or May this time. So you need to appreciate this because who knows, the kids might be even older next time you will be able to do something like this.
It's almost like a cloud that follows you around, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just doesn't let you just enjoy the moment.
No, exactly.
But on the flip side, that also does give you an appreciation that most normal people, quote unquote, don't have. They don't have that perspective. And I'm not saying that people don't go through their own battles. And I know there's a lot of people that, you know, have their own challenges and stuff that isn't necessarily cancer. But it is cancer and this like level of difficulty for a longer period of time that gives you a perspective like that makes you say like, I have to appreciate this. And there's not many people that have that.
No.
So I think that that's a thing that at the moment comes with anxieties and, you know, its own sort of stresses and whatever. Because your scans are only 6 months apart, you know that the next scan is coming in 6 months. At some point, you know, in a year or two's time, that's going to go to a year. And then after that, it's going to be further and further apart. And I'm hoping that the perspective change sticks around. But the anxieties that come with it dissipate a little bit. I don't know. Like that's what I would hope, at least. That perspective on life, it's only the positives that are left at the end of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean about that?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that'll be the case, but the thing that I think we need to keep reminding ourselves of is it's so fresh. you had your last surgery a year ago and the recovery time after that was lengthy.
Yeah, it was.
So the way that I look at it is when we started the chapter after cancer, so to say, it was long after your last surgery. It was well into the summer when you were in a position where you were recovering to the point where you could feel like you could go out and live life again.
Yeah, because we could also maybe say that we did take Sonny and travel all the way to England in the summer.
Yeah.
3 months after. Well, while we were in England, it was 3 months after the surgery. In one way, it was really good that we went, and in one way, it was not very smart that we went because we were not mentally stable when we left. It was on the way home. It was a very, very tough journey because I was exhausted from recovering from the surgery physically, which also affected me mentally. And then kids who gets exhausted from traveling, it was not a good combination. Yeah,
it was difficult, wasn't it? And when you put it like on paper like that, when you say that it was only 3 months, that seems so crazy, doesn't it? It seems so crazy that we thought that was a good idea. I mean, it was fine. We had a great time.
Yeah.
But like just us saying, hey, it's 3 months after surgery, you've had extensive surgeries. Oh, let's drive 30 hours or whatever it was to the UK. Insane. But I think we were so ready to live life, weren't we?
That was it.
We were so ready to start the life that we'd been planning for so long, particularly with Sonny and with the van and whatever. We just wanted to get out on the road and we wanted to sleep anywhere that wasn't that house that we were living in.
Yeah, that was it. We needed to get something new and get something where it was only positive input. It did good for us at the same time as it was really, really hard.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that I'm not glad we did it because it was a great trip and we got a lot out of it. But yeah, the journey home was, it became really obvious what we'd been going through. And obviously travelling with 2 kids is never easy for anybody.
No.
And when they're having a rough day, it's obviously always difficult on the parents. But when those parents are struggling and us all feeling the aftermath of what we've been through, it was difficult. It was difficult, but I'm glad we did it. Definitely. Still.
Yeah, I am.
It laid the foundation for what we're doing now.
Absolutely.
It made it really obvious that it's possible to just jump in the van and drive anywhere we want to.
Yeah. But now we've been talking a lot about how I'm feeling and how my journey's been. And we said that it was important to share the partner side of it. So do you want to share a little bit on how your journey was throughout all of this?
Not really, no. Next. Yeah, of course. I think it's important to share from the partner's side of it as well. Because even though we had a lot of help and we had a lot of people that were going through it with us, they weren't necessarily on the front line like I was. It felt like it was you and me together doing the thing. And yeah, we got some really, really good help and, you know, we would have really struggled without it. But I felt like we were on the front lines sort of thing. And I've seen it like, I was going to say before when you were talking about it, but I've seen it compared to like being in war. Like when you're in the battle, you don't think about the difficulties of the battle. You just think about getting through it. It's when you come home that it starts, that you start to realise what a difficult journey you've been through. And it's the same thing with cancer, for sure. Like you only think about just getting to the next step. But for me, it was like I struggled with mental health because of it, obviously. Like I've struggled really bad with it.
Yeah, you even got written off sick from work, didn't you?
Yeah, so when you first got diagnosed, I was working from home and for some insane reason, I thought that I could carry on working full time whilst having 100% care of the kids. Obviously, like I said, with help, but I was still, you know, I still had the kids.
In the beginning, it was a lot you. Like we had help when other people finished work or they finished an hour early or so. But in the beginning, it was 100% you to care of the kids.
Yeah. And because I was working from home and I was working a really flexible job, I would have the kids all day, put the kids to bed, and then start working. And I would try to make up my full-time hours essentially only in the evenings for a while.
Mm.
And I did that for a while, all the way up until when you started chemo and a little bit into the chemo journey. And that was just the biggest mistake that I've probably ever made in terms of that sort of thing.
I think that is a way of your subconscious, is that the right word? To try to keep everything normal.
Yeah.
That
probably
it
right,
wasn't
yeah.
like that you actively thought, oh, I got this, I know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was probably something underneath that was like, if I stop working now, that means that it's actually bad.
Yeah.
But if I try to keep this surface of that everything is normal,
Yeah.
then it might not be as bad as we think it is.
Might be right. Yeah. Yeah. In the end, I ended up having to go to the doctor because I was closer to being burnt out than I admitted to myself at the time. But when I look back on it now, I was really struggling with exhaustion, burnout, stress, waking up stressed, going to bed stressed, and just having just constant anxiety for the whole time. And I started seeing a psychologist, I think she would be, maybe a psychiatrist, I don't know. Psychologist, I think.
I don't know the difference in English.
Pretty standard, like, therapist sort of thing. And I saw her like maybe 4 or 5 times, but that was during the process. And she didn't really help me. She was fantastic and she was a lovely person to talk to. But at the time, I was so in the bubble, in the blur of whatever it was that we were going through. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I was fine. And yeah, okay, I wake up, I've got anxiety all the time. But like, so what? It's fine. It's not cancer. I ended up being signed off from work for 10 weeks, which is a very long time for something like that, especially in the Swedish healthcare system. They like to get you fixed and get you back to work. But I got signed off for a few weeks to start with, and then they extended it. And in the end, yeah, it ended up being 10 whole weeks. And during that time, I realised how stupid I'd been by trying to keep up with a full-time job at the same time as what we were going through.
Yeah.
I was working well into the nights and things, and it was just a terrible idea.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything good for anybody doing that. It's not good for you. It's not good for the kids. They don't get a dad who's present.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you could focus on anything for you. You didn't feel like you could focus on anything for me. Like, nothing got done. Like, it just gets too much. And it's like that for anybody who's trying to do too much things at once, I guess. But even more obvious when it's something like this.
Yeah.
I know that we've been talking about it before, that it took a very, very long time for you to accept that it was cancer or to understand that it was cancer.
Yeah.
Like, the first day when I got to hear that I had a tumor, I remember you getting annoyed at people for saying the word cancer because we've not heard the word cancer yet, even though everybody else understood that it was a tumor means cancer.
Yeah.
Or a lot of the time it's a bad cancer.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of them things that, like, if you say it out loud and you accepted it, and I think it was the same there.
Could have been, yeah. Yeah, it took me a long, long time to realise that it was actually cancer that we were fighting against. And I don't know, like, it's a really, really odd thing when I think back, because now, of course it was obvious. But even when you'd been told that you had cancer, I still didn't think it was cancer. And I don't know whether I, like, subconsciously thought it was like, oh, it's a language issue. I've not understood what they've been talking about. Of course, it's not actual cancer. Okay, so she's got a tumour. Okay, it's a cancerous tumour, but it's not actually cancer. And it took me a long, long time to actually think, like, oh my God, she's actually got cancer. And I can remember I was sat at a traffic light. I was driving somewhere, and it was sat at a red traffic light when it hit me. It was like, fucking cancer. What? And I don't know, it hit me all at once, right there and then. But yeah, it was weird state of denial.
So this was the light-hearted podcast that you wanted to listen to today.
God, we said at the beginning we were going to try and keep it light-hearted, but bloody hell, it's, yeah.
I do think it is good to talk through this, though. And I don't feel like we've been sat here digging our graves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think it's really important as well. I think it's a good thing to talk about and discuss. We've been recording for nearly an hour now, but by the time I've edited this, I think it's going to be about 6 minutes.
we struggle with mental health.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye. No, but I think the taboo about talking about mental health needs to end. There's so many people who struggle with mental health who aren't able to talk about it for one reason or another. And I want to help to alleviate the taboo around it. I think that we need to talk more openly about mental health.
Absolutely.
And I think our generation is better at it than any other generation before us. And I hope that our kids' generation is even better than we are.
Yeah.
I want it to be a normal thing. I want it to be as normal as when your foot hurts, you go to the doctor. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
When you break a bone, you go to the hospital. When you've got poor mental health, you go and get it sorted. You talk about it.
Yeah.
I want it to be as normal as physical health problems.
Absolutely. And I do feel like the healthcare system throughout this journey has been really good with that. My doctor, my surgeon, she's been brilliant with this. She's been saying, like, it's not all about how you feel physically. If you feel exhausted, if you feel like you're mentally not ready to go back to work, then you're not ready to go back to work. Then you get another 4 weeks off because you need to get back on your feet. It's a big trauma that you've been through. You need to get back on your feet on every level before you can get back into life, because otherwise it's really hard to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really good that the doctors look at it in that way.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, all right, you're done physically. And I think that you and me are both very positive people. Like, in the foundation, we're positive people who have a bright look at life. And even when we've been going through all of this shit, we've been able to laugh at it. We've been laid in that hospital bed laughing at stuff that's been going on. Like, when we got COVID, we were like laughing at it, saying like, how on earth is this happening to us? 4 days after I got a stoma, after I had a surgery to get a colostomy, I got a stomach bug.
That was the one for me. What is the one thing that you don't want when you've just had a stoma, like a life-changing thing that affects your digestive system? Your stomach bug.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it's the very bottom of the list of illnesses that you want to have.
Yeah, especially when the doctors say, don't use any of your muscles in your abdomen.
How do you throw up without using your abdomen muscles?
Yeah, that was a challenge.
Oh God, just one thing after another. Like I said, it's just nuts, isn't it, when you think about it?
During that time as well, I was obviously not allowed to lift more than a pack of milk.
Yeah, carton of milk. Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of days after I'd been poorly, you obviously got the stomach bug.
Yeah.
And that also meant that I could not lift the kids out of bed in the morning. And you were laid, like, you could not move from the bathroom.
Yeah.
So at 5 a.m., I had to ring my parents and say, hello, can you come and please lift my baby out of the crib because I can't lift her.
I have no recollection of this at all, but yeah.
So
Insane.
6 o'clock in the morning, my parents came with breakfast and said, hello, we're here to help you get the kids out of bed.
Shit show. Absolute shit show.
Oh,
Shocking.
life, eh?
Yeah,
Life.
yeah.
And then they wonder, why do you got bad mental health?
Yeah. Insane.
And this is why I feel like this is important, because just what we did now, we tell something terrible and then we laugh about it. That's very much how you and me work. And to other people, it probably looks like we take everything very lighthearted and everything is so easy. And even if it's been terrible with cancer, we're still laughing and having fun.
Life's
and
still good.
Everything is butterflies and pink flowers and rainbows and green lizards.
That took a turn. Was not the next thing that I was expecting on that list.
Okay, I ruined it a little bit there. But what I wanted to say was, it's not all just amazing, fun, life is good. even though we do laugh at stuff, we're trying to look at everything positive, and we're trying to get the bright side of all the shit that life has thrown us. But I do find it important to say, like, it's not as easy as we might make it look sometimes. And it's not because we want to we don't want to show the real side of us. It's just who we are. We try to laugh at it, and it's not because we're trying to hide that we're actually struggling.
No, it's all genuine. It's all genuine, and it's I don't know what it is, whether it's our weird coping mechanism or whatever. But it is. We've done it all the way through. Like you said, we've been able to laugh about stuff, and I think it's really healthy. I think it's nice that we've been able to laugh about the shit.
Absolutely. I think you get actually depressed if you can't laugh at all the shit that's going on. Because if you actually look at it and think, this is terrible, because it's been terrible, then you go even deeper down in that hole. Yeah. But if you can laugh at it and try to look at the bright side and say, like, this is just insane, then at least you can get back up on your feet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Yes. But no, I think it's really good that we've done this episode. I was sceptical at first because I think talking about mental health is hard. But I think it is really, really important to do it. And I think anywhere with a platform, even if 5 people listen to this, I think it's important that we start normalising it. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of making it normal.
Yeah.
I think that we can save lives if people know where they can turn when they're struggling.
Absolutely.
Just a few weeks ago, probably my closest friend in Sweden, a very, very close friend of mine, took his own life. Nick had been struggling with mental health probably for as long as I've known him. I met him not that long after I moved to Sweden, actually.
Yeah.
We had a lot in common. Nick was an incredible, it's so weird talking about him in past tense, an incredible musician, and one of those people that nobody's ever met Nick and not liked him.
No, he was one of these people who was so genuine. Like, when he talked to you and when you spoke to him, he was 100% there. Even though he had ADHD and was a bit everywhere, he was still managing to look at you and feel like you were the only person in the room that he wanted to listen to. You were
truly listened to when you talked to him, weren't you? He was so attentive and so there, and just the most incredible lad. And he's the only person on the planet, I think, that could feasibly explain audio sequencing to a 3-year-old. We went to his house, all of us, and he ended up teaching Charlie about synthesizers and audio sequencing. And Charlie understands it, I'm telling you now. He's retained it. Yeah. Nick was a really, really special person, and somebody who had worn his mental health issues on his sleeve. He'd been very open about struggling with mental health. And I hope that he knew that he could reach out. That's the thing that scares me, is that how many people are going through what Nick was going through and don't know where to turn, don't know who they can turn to and where they can get help and whatever. And I'm not saying that I have the answers, but I'm saying that if discussing mental health was more normalised, then maybe people who were struggling could feel like they could turn to help a little bit more. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think that if people are more open with what they're going through, then it's easier for somebody else to open up as well.
Yeah. Everybody has their own stuff.
Yeah.
Not everybody's been through a cancer battle. Not everybody's been through the trauma that we have, but everybody's got their own stuff going on.
Exactly.
And that's a really good way of living your everyday life. If you can stand behind somebody in a queue and understand that that person's got going through stuff as well, we could all be nicer to each other. I think it's a really good way of looking at the world and
absolutely
understanding that everybody's got their shit.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's so easy these days to sit and be nasty to somebody behind a screen and talk shit about each other, and it's just so easy to be a troll these days.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to realise that it's not just you who's going through something, everybody else is going through something as well. So be kind to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had our share of them as well, haven't we? Trolls.
One of the worst ones that we got was when we went out with saying that I had cancer. One of our first, well, probably the first cancer video.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that it's time to go and buy a, how do you say in English?
Coffin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time to buy a coffin.
Yeah.
We've had thousands at this point of lovely, wonderful, incredible comments. And those are the ones that you have to remember.
Yeah.
But we have had dotted throughout the whole thing. We've had the odd one where it's been really nasty. Just the other week, somebody told you to put your ugly bag away.
Yeah.
When you were sharing about you being...
Cancer awareness, and,
you know, you were showing your colostomy and stuff. Put that ugly bag away. And luckily, we have a layer of thick skin, I think, with stuff like that.
We got a lizard skin on.
Lizard skin, green lizards making an appearance again. But there are people going through battles who don't have that.
If I would have got a comment like that to put my bag away the week after my surgery, because that was probably the first time I posted something with my colostomy out, I would never have worn a bikini again. Probably, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's really, really sad.
Yeah.
They only want to say something to make you feel bad about it. I think it's really, really shit.
Yeah, it is.
I think we can all be a bit nicer.
Absolutely.
I think it's important that we try and make the world a little bit better.
Yeah.
Try and leave people nice comments instead.
Tell the person you meet on the street next time that they got a beautiful coat or nice shoes or even a nice smile.
Yeah. We're saying that not to our Swedish followers. That's like a sweet worst nightmare.
Yeah, no, especially...
Sparking up a conversation.
Especially you Swedes. You go out there and do this.
Pay a stranger a compliment.
Yeah, exactly.
Make their day. Yeah, so there was that light-hearted, happy episode that we were talking about.
Yeah, I hope you all feel uplifted and happy and joyful.
I bet you do. But whilst we thought that this was a really, really important discussion to have, obviously this isn't the theme of the rest of the podcast. No. So it's a one and done thing, I think, with something that this dark and heavy.
Yes.
The rest of the podcast will resume to its normal, silly...
happy life.
Happy.
Green lizards and rainbows. And
yeah, exactly.
So take care of each other. Be nice to each other. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.